Kansas got off to a good start on opening night with an 89-64 victory over Omaha. Freshman Gradey Dick led all scorers with 23 points, but it was a coach selfless night. He is suspended for 4 games, and that's exactly where we're going to start, Derek. What is Kansas doing in this 4-game suspension for Coach Self?
So Norm Roberts, who's been a longtime assistant for them, he's taken over as the interim guy. Curtis Townsend, one of their top assistants, is also out for the near term. Obviously, it's not a brutal schedule to open things up. They do have Duke next week for the Champions Classic. That'll be the big one that you don't have Coach Self for. But the opener against Omaha, that was a team in the 300s on Ken Palm. North Dakota State is a better team in the Summit League, but it's still not like a top 150 team or anything like that. And then Southern Utah, again, like not a top 150 team. So it certainly is a little bit funny that, hey, we're gonna impose this sanction, but we ain't missing the Bahamas trip. Like I'm making my way to Bahamas during Thanksgiving.
That's absolutely right. And obviously, it is going to be a bummer to not have Coach Self on the sideline for the Champions Classic, like the premier early season event for NCAA basketball. It looks like we might not have Oscar Tshiebwe on the court either for Kentucky in the other game. And so, yeah, we might be missing some of that star power. But as you alluded to, Coach Self will be back for Kansas to head down to the Bahamas for the Battle for Atlantis. It's a great field. We've got Kansas along with Dayton, who's a top 25 team, USC. We could have a championship game with Tennessee, what to me would be a top 10 matchup. What are you looking forward to with getting Coach Self back on that trip and what the Jayhawks need to do?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I saw one betting site had Tennessee as the favorite to win. When it wasn't like that much different than what Kansas was, but that's always a competitive field. That and Maui are really two of the premier ones. I think the last time Kansas was in the Battle for Atlantis, they lost to Villanova in one of the first couple games, and that was kind of similar to what they're going through this year. Like they have a little bit of a younger team. They've got a lot of young players who are working together, and that was the case the last time they were in the Battle for Atlantis. So if they do end up facing off, you could have the Dayton rematch from last year when Dayton beat them in a preseason or pre-conference, however you want to put it, tournament over the course of Thanksgiving. You could have a rematch possibly there. You could play Tennessee, who's sounded really good with some of their secret scrimmage news and whatnot. So, yeah, that should be a big time back, and they certainly need Bill Self back for that. But it does kind of work out, too, that over these first 4 games, like hypothetically, if they lose to Duke in the Champions Classic, we come around to March, and let's say Duke and Kansas are competing for the same seed line. That could be a head-to-head tiebreaker, but you can also just point back now and they have kind of a built-in excuse and they can be like, well, Bill Self wasn't coaching.